Welcome to Moss Marketing Mondays, a.k.a. the M3 Podcast. Brought to you by Moss Marketing Group, bringing you everything marketing every Monday. Stay tuned for marketing tips and tricks you can use today. The M3 Podcast, marketing knowledge to help you succeed. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the M3 Podcast. This week, myself, as normal, Dre. He was absent last week.
He has returned.
He has returned.
Slacker.
We have Ricky and our guest, Tony Cardello. Tony Cardello.
Also known as.
Thank you for coming on today.
My pleasure.
So, Tony, you work in the automotive space. We have had some people on here on the automotive space. I tend to have a pretty heavy network of people in the automotive space. So that's where a lot of people I know come from.
Not hard to do.
But you are with the McCarthy Group.
Yep.
And what is it that you do for the McCarthy Group?
So I'm what's called a platform director, and it's it's a newer title. I've been in the business. It'll be November. It'll be 26 years, and just in the last probably 5 to 7 years, I've heard the name platform director. And what it is, it's kind of a corporate layer that these auto groups are putting in. I act as a general manager in the 2 stores that I run, but the fact that I'm over 2 stores, they kind of call it a platform. So I'm a director, and then most recently at one of our stores, we did put a general manager in under me. So I'm in an organizational chart. I'm just a step above a general manager, I guess, in terms of organizational. But really, in terms of my daily role, I kind of look at myself still as a general manager or car salesman. like people ask me, "What do you do for a living?" I sell cars.
That's the bottom line.
I sell cars. I do.
At the end of the day, I mean, as a car dealership, that is the one main goal.
It's a car store.
It's not a museum.
Like a shoe store that sells shoes. Like everyone there is to sell shoes. Like anywhere that sells a product, their main job is to sell product.
That's it.
And that's what makes the world go round at a car dealership.
Absolutely. Nothing happens till you sell a car.
Exactly.
Right.
You can't have service work if you don't sell cars.
That's right.
So, with being in the car space, what led you to the car space to get into it 26 years ago?
Oh, man. Well, I'm the youngest of 5 kids, and my oldest brother has been in the car business for as long as I can remember. In fact, I think he's 15 years older than me. It's a joke around. My dad used to say that he was teaching one of us to drive and one of us to walk. So like different stages of mobility, So he's pretty much significantly older than I am. So I've watched him excel in the space. Joe Cardello's with the J Wolf Group. He's been with them for 35 years or something like that. So I've always admired him in a lot of ways. And I don't know, I just gravitate to selling, and it's a people business. And so, I tried my hand at it as an 18-year-old kid right out of high school. And in fact, that was my first real job. I dropped out of high school, and I thought, what the heck, I'll try and sell cars. And so I couldn't get the job until I was 18, so I had to wait till November when I turned 18 in November of 97. So that's the rest is history. I've been going at it ever since.
I think that we talk about this all the time, Ricky's been in the car space. He's sold cars. Dre sold cars. I've sold cars.
Everyone has to try it at least once.
Yeah, everybody has to try.
They should.
And then the best part is everyone, after they've been in the car business and they go to buy a car, no matter how long they spent in the car business, that's their negotiation tactic. Like, I know what you guys do. I sold cars once.
Yeah.
I've been on the other side of the table.
Yeah, I know what you're up to.
I sold cars back in the 60s.
How long did you sell? How long did you sell cars for? Well, I did it for a week and a half, and I know what you're up to.
Yeah, that's where that's like probably my biggest pet peeve. So then I'll go with I went with my girlfriend and her mom to go buy a car, and it's like the whole time, I didn't say anything. I was just she just wanted me to be there just because she felt better. Right. And the whole time she's like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "It's a fair deal. I told you when we were coming here, it was a fair deal." And she's like, "Do I try to negotiate?" I'm like, "No, we drove here because it was the best price one." I was like, "Why would you negotiate?"
You're like, "I hate customers like you."
I'm like, I can't stand doing that. And she's like, okay, I just want to make sure. She's like, do I need to do anything else? I'm like, no, you're killing it. And like,
all you got to do is sign the papers now.
Just enjoy the process.
Yeah. And I end up like, I'm talking to the managers and stuff down the road, and I'm like, I hate when people come in, they're like, well, I was in the car business. I'm like, don't say that. Like, that probably puts you like 10 steps back.
Right, exactly. That's always funny. So, yeah, that's, I spent all my years working, all in the variable side. I never worked in service. That was the chink in my armor when I started taking over stores. But with this group specifically, Chris Lee, my boss, told me, he's like, man, don't worry about fixed operations. You'll learn it just like running a sales department. It's the same thing. Like in service, nothing happens until you sell service, and so you're just kind of, your advisors are salespeople, and you just kind of equate and make the parallels from service to sales, and you find a lot of simple parallels that really happen. It makes go, and then once you kind of figure out the nuts and bolts of it, you can get down to the nitty gritty and really impact change, and we've done that pretty well.
I feel like you're in a group that has a very, very good name to it. And I also think when you talk the corporate side, when you mention the word corporate, that only comes in big groups. Mm-hmm. Like what you're doing day to day to what we did is completely different. Like
sure.
In a fact of, I feel like that general manager spot, and I feel like that platform manager gets so different so quick of watching those fixed operations, watching those dollars and cents all the time, saying, hey, there's a problem right here. This needs to be fixed. Whatever this is, we're going to do what has to be done to fix it. What does it look like on that journey up? Because I know a lot of people listen to stuff and they're not at that spot. They're selling cars still, and they don't know what it looks like for that next step. They don't know that transition. They don't know what they have to do. What is it that you're like looking for in that next person that's coming up?
Leadership. Honestly, the secret sauce to the success that I've had rapidly, especially with this organization and the departments that I manage, I feel like the one thing I do know and know well is people, and I know how to lead people. And so when you hire and you look within your department, you're looking for professionals that have the experience, who's ran a service department, who's ran a sales department, who's done those things, and then you put them in, and then you just lead them, and to be honest with you, I've learned more about the business in the last 2 years from the people that I've hired. So you think conversely it would be opposite, right? Yeah. And that's kind of the servant leadership role that I take, right? I lead from the ground level, so I'm down in the trenches constantly. I think I probably, humbly say that I probably spend more time learning from my managers than teaching. Yeah. I definitely teach leadership principles. I spend a lot of time in my meetings, and we do book readings together as a leadership team and things like that. But as far as my business acumen, what I've acquired, I say more my operational side of the acumen, I've acquired from the managers that I've hired and put in these roles, because they're the best at what they do, and subsequently we've had just crazy success, especially in our fixed operations department of both of my stores. The year-over-year increase we've had over the 11 stores, my 2 stores are vastly leading in a year-over-year increase above all the others in a fixed operations world, which is just it's awesome. It's humbling to be part of that team and to say that, man, I get to lead that team, and really in a lot of cases they lead me, when it comes to the business practices.
I think that says a lot about managers and people that we deal with a lot of businesses all the time. And I do see like a common factor in people we were just talking about this before the podcast started, when people are willing to learn from someone that a title doesn't say anything about a person. And Moss Marketing Group was going very slowly up until everyone around, I pretty much let the reins go, saying, hey, you're going to be the best, all these things. And I found out really quickly that everyone around me was way better at everything than I was. Yeah, right. And I was like, whoa, this works a lot better.
This is cool.
I'm like, and it's like all of a sudden everybody can handle stuff. And I'm like, why didn't I do this a long time ago? And I was trying to think that I knew more than I did. And I think sometimes there's just that, kind of spot that people have to run into, finally saying like, hey, maybe what I am thinking in my head isn't correct all the time.
I had a situation not too long ago, and my boss, my direct person that I report to, Chris Lee, man, crazy intelligent, just super, super sharp. He's a young dude as well. He's 38 years old, 39 years old. You know, approaching 40. He gets mad when I say that. But,
Call him out on the podcast like that.
Yeah. See, Lee, you're getting old, bud. I remember not too long ago, on the Windows, on the keyboard, you can hit the Windows and then left, and you can split the screen. You know, you can move. And he's like, whoa, what'd you just do? And I'm talking like, this dude's crazy smart. And so it kind of, though it was simple and something, I was like, you know what? Like, it's cool. You can learn even the simplest things, as intelligent as you are, as great as you are, or whatever. Stopping for a minute and just observing what's going on around you and watching, you can pick up like some of the silliest little things from people. A porter, you know what I mean? One of our porters that worked for us was crazy good with like TikTok videos. I'm like, oh, dude, cool. Would you just do that again, man?
We literally had a meeting this morning about like TikTok and everything on that side. There's a younger generation that's coming up, and it's crazy that we run a very young marketing group, and like the stuff we're talking about, even to older generations, they're looking at us like we're speaking a foreign language.
Listen, I'll be 44 in here in a couple months, bro. And I pride myself in being like tech savvy, you know what I mean? Like I got Facebook and stuff, you know. They're like, hey, hit me up on IG. Like, what's IG? I got to ask my kids.
I don't have that yet.
Yeah. Snapchat. I'll snap you, bro.
Yeah.
I don't have that.
I don't rock the Snapchat life.
You don't?
No.
All right. So you're.
I do.
Yeah. See, that's the difference in age. You got a couple of years difference there. There's the
There's the break.
There's the
Snapchat
break
was right here.
Yeah. That's the break in the generations, right there.
I'm older than one person here.
All right.
Ricky, you got Snapchat?
I have it. I don't use it.
See, he did have it.
He's a lot bigger YouTube guy than us, though.
I do like YouTube.
Yeah.
I do watch YouTube every night.
I love YouTube. I'm a fanatic.
See, I don't really like YouTube.
I do. That's why I was telling you about these podcasts. You know, I'm like, I listen to a podcast. Like, no, I don't. I watch it. Yeah. So it's not really a podcast, I don't think, if you watch it. It's a YouTube video.
Yeah. That's like when we started this, I was like, well, people watch the podcast. Like, we have some people. And then we watch our numbers that are like 10 times that on Spotify. I'm
That's
like,
so crazy. It's beyond me.
But it's also like, I think about when I listen to podcast. I don't watch podcasts. I listen to them, and I listen to them in the car.
Yep.
Like that's just became my time to like when I listen to, or sometimes when I'm working, I just want kind of some peace and quiet. I'll throw one of my AirPods in or something, just listen to a podcast.
How do you search for a car? Like if one of your friends says, hey, can you help me find a car? What's the first place you do?
I go straight to Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace.
Okay.
So
what about you?
For me, I don't know. It just kind of depends.
Probably text Dane.
Yeah. So
that's the second one.
So then tell me what your search looks like. Like how many different sites will you look at? Like you can't find it on Marketplace relatively quickly.
So I think I know where you're leading with this. It depends on what
I'm really just trying to cut my advertising, so I'm taking a poll here.
So it kind of depends because like I search stuff on Facebook Marketplace the second I think about like anything really. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of stats out there that Marketplace has turned into just like a very large search engine for product in general.
Yeah.
But also I have a lot of connections in the car space. So it's like I'm buying massive new cars. So I text somebody today on it. And he's like, yeah, I'll have it for you.
Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but my point, just like listen to where you listen to your podcast, where do you listen to? I think people just usually do what they do, and that they don't. I don't have like 3 different places I look at YouTube or watch videos. I don't. Cause there's like multiple video sites where you can watch videos, right? I think.
So like I've gotten to where I like watching TikTok videos. Like
so TikTok.
It's like my girlfriend only watches Instagram Reels, which. They're both pretty much the same thing now.
I like Facebook Reels, and because don't you see the TikTok logo in half the Facebook Reels?
On quite a few of them, yeah.
So I'm like, wait a minute, am I on TikTok or Facebook?
So Facebook and Instagram. So Instagram's owned by Facebook, or Meta now. But they are actually now like figured out a way to dock all those that have the TikTok little signal thing. So they don't like that. So we were running reels on Instagram stuff, and all of a sudden, like, I was putting them in TikTok, and I was putting the music to them and everything. Then I import them into Instagram. Like, all of a sudden, one day we like drop off the charts, and I'm like, whoa! And I'm like, we read day in and day out on marketing stuff. Like, marketing.
I hope so.
Like marketing in the social
Winging
media
it.
space changes so quick.
Yeah, I bet.
And like
fast.
Instagram rolls out with a whole. It starts with Instagram Reels, carries over to Facebook, but they roll straight out with this whole new deal that's like docking down the TikTok videos. And we had probably like 3 days, and I'm like reading something on it. I'm like, hey, like, and then one of our other guys does phenomenal on TikTok, like knows it inside and out. And he's like, oh yeah, he's like, that's already like a big deal. Like they're docking everyone on Instagram. Then you see these people posting on here, and like we've had people here and they're like, well, our reels just don't really do that well. I'm like, that's because you're pulling them through TikTok. They're like, how does it know that? I'm like, it's a lot smarter than we think there.
That part's not important. The part is you get a worse effect if you run it through TikTok.
Yes. So
It's so crazy.
It's just crazy how fast like the space changes and adapts to those things. And I think like you're talking on the car space, on when somebody searches a car, I'm thinking from, what was it, 10, 15 years ago that they threw out the stat or whatever that on average people went to, five dealerships?
Yeah.
And now it's like 1.8 or something.
Yeah, it's going back up. Yeah.
Yeah.
A
But
little
it's,
bit.
I think now it's probably, like I know we have one dealership that we market a lot on no fees because they would get to some store or something, be tacked on a bunch of fees, people get upset, things like that. So we've really capitalized on it for that store. Mm-hmm. And I think there are things causing people to end up at more stores now with the crazy market that is out there. And I think people know the market's a little wonky in the car space, but I don't think people really understand like how hard it is for dealers to get cars. Like, I don't think they understand that side of it.
I think it took the customer about a year and a half to realize the market's out of whack.
Yeah. Which, I'm glad. I'm glad for that because it will slow down a little bit of the volatility. Like we had a rapid, major spike, obviously, in values, and I don't think we're going to see a same reduction. It's not going to drop as fast as it went up, which thank goodness, because that
Exactly.
That could be really bad.
Yeah. I don't.
for me personally too. I bought my wife a Cadillac. I'm like,
I don't.
hang in there.
Ride the tide.
I don't think the market will drop off by any means, but I think there's going to be a shift in the car space, and I think I even see it more now being outside of it, because when you're working in it all day, like you put like blinders.
You get tunnel
on,
vision, yeah.
and you get these like blinders on of like what you're paying attention to all the time.
Sure.
And being outside of it, and we work with tons of car dealers, we see that there's all this success coming with certain ones, and we see that there's like these other ones are going down, these ones are going up. And one of the biggest things that we see on it is the sales training. That they got this, the car business had this 2 years of luxury that
Didn't require any training.
Exactly.
We have a car. Do you want it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It shifted the table that if somebody came in and negotiated, it was like, there's the door.
Yeah. Hey, go talk to that customer. What'd I say to him? Nothing. Just don't say anything. Just hand them the keys and shut up.
Yeah. Print the paperwork. Like, it was just like, it came to this space that a value or a vehicle became more value than a customer.
Yeah.
And that's never happened in the car space. And I think this shift happened for 2 years, and all of a sudden all these new people came in the car space, and they don't understand what the actual car space entitles, like what the sales training and all the stuff that goes into it. And I think that's going to shift back to actually having to sell again and things like that. And I think when that happens is when you're going to see that split in the car space very quick, where it's going to be these people that have no earthly idea what they're doing. They're like, well, I don't really like selling cars anymore.
Yeah, I
Like,
bet you don't.
I actually have to like make phone calls and like text people and do stuff.
Right.
And, like before, I just sat outside and people just showed up and bought stuff. like it was cool then.
They're asking why the photos aren't online yet.
Hey, my dealer doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah. So it's like I just have a feeling that shift is. I feel like that's what's going to dictate the car market more than actual vehicle price.
Funny you say that. We're like jumping way out in front of that. There's two things that you said right there that are so huge for us right now that we're focused heavily on. Number one is training. Well, I should say number one is customer service.
Yeah.
CSI, because we realize, number one, as we're growing as an organization, That's a big thing. Whether you're buying a brand of a dealership that you currently have in your auto group or a new one, and even more importantly, if you're buying a new brand store that you don't currently have, they're going to look at how you're servicing the customers of the brands that you currently have. And even though some of these manufacturers don't pay or have any incentive for the dealers to have good CSI other than they just should, it's good for your business, they don't really attach a lot of the back end money to the CSI scores. However, it's so important. These manufacturers are looking at that and some of the metrics and stuff. But anyway, so we've like as an auto group have taken a gigantic approach at CSI scores and made it like it's part of everybody's pay plan now. It is like super front of mind, and it's making. At first guys are like, hey, here's what we got to do. You make sure if it's a bad customer that you don't put the right email address in. Like, no, that's a terrible idea. Yeah. No, well, how are we going to get good scores? How about give good customer service? Yeah. Let's start there. It's super easy. And
also being accountable on those people that didn't have a great experience figuring out why they didn't.
No question.
And then I think sometimes people are so focused on, like when we sold cars, everyone was focused on those 5-star customers. And we had a bunch of them. And it was like, we pride ourselves on customer service, still what we do now. But it's like that one person that has a bad experience, that was the person that I lost sleep over.
Yeah.
That was the person, we could sell 100 vehicles, but if you had one customer that it wasn't right for, and it's like same thing with what we do now, is like we can onboard 100 accounts, and that one account that I don't do well, we don't do well for, that's where I have a problem.
Well, and with that, there's an ethical and a moral compass that has to come into play there, because let's face it, an auto group like ours that's been around for 40 years and as big as we are, as many cars as we sell, we've got the ability to any bad CSI or bad press on social media. We have the ability that we have enough good press and good media that stuff can get suppressed so quickly to where we wouldn't even have to respond to it, or who cares, right? Yeah. We could just write it off, because in the grand scheme of things, it's not really probably going to impact us, that bad score. But that's where ethics and morality has to come in. It's like, man, it's a biblical principle. It's like going after the one lost sheep, right? Leaving the 99 good ones and going after the one lost, and that's we as an auto group, we pride, and that's why I love working for this organization. We genuinely care. Yeah. Even if the CSI doesn't make us any money, it's the right thing to do, and that's why I enjoy working for who I work for, because that's those are principles we operate on.
And you were touching on the dealership at group as a whole. And it's funny, I know somebody else in your organization, and I've talked to him about it too, is there's a dealership group out of Texas, the Sewell Group, that I have a great aunt and uncle that live down there. And they got a new car. I was like, what'd you get? And they're like, well, we drive Sewells. I'm like, I go, that's not a brand.
It's a brand, yeah.
Right. I was like, they're like, no, in Texas, you drive a Sewell. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
Right. I'm like, was it brought up from Mexico?
I'm confused. I'm like, you guys importing some stuff? Right. They're like, are you driving on the wrong side of the car? What are you talking about? And they're like, no, the dealership group, it's a Sewell Group, and
it's
they're
branded like that. Yeah, it's awesome.
They're driving a Lexus RX 350 or something, but they genuinely don't even care about price. Their service, their car gets picked up, taken to get an oil change at every set time. They have text messages that go out to them. They have their own app. They do this whole thing. That it became such a catering type service that they're like, just when we want a car, we just text our person, or it's more of a concierge service.
Yeah, right.
And it's they text that person that they want a car and this is what they're looking for, and then they just get it for them.
Yeah.
And then it's you don't go over pricing. You just get there and you sign the paperwork, and they sit at nice tables on couches and stuff, glassware, and have people bring you out warm cookies and stuff. I'm like, I probably wouldn't negotiate with them either. I'm getting coffee in a glass cup. That's cool.
I'm only buying the car if I get 2 more cookies.
Right. But Otis Spunkmeyer.
But they just make it so easy, and I think the car space is something that just has had this stigma around it for so long that it's a difficult process. Simplifying that process in anything, when we got into the marketing space, my thought process was there's a huge communication break with marketing. Marketing companies don't know how to communicate with someone because they're not people.
Right, yeah.
And
they're nerds usually.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
they're
smart.
They're smart, and we're not very smart, so I don't know how we're making it. But it's but it's like something that they don't care about that customer service side, and it's like they're so much about chasing contracts and stuff like that you have sales side, and then you have the people that do the marketing.
Right.
So I don't know. Tim comes into our store in his new Porsche and his blue suit, and he's going to sell us on the best found marketing on the planet. He just started with this company a month ago, though. Yeah, right. And it's like, I mean, this is going to change our lives. Uh-huh. And you end up signing up with him. Guess what? You can't ever speak to him again in your life. Right. You can't get a hold of him because he's trying to outsell for his next 12 months before your contract's up.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, yeah, if you need help, you call IT, man. Then you call IT, and they're like, oh, yeah, we'll put in a work order for it. But you're like, you're like 3 weeks out from getting any help. I'm like,
yeah.
Right. What? I just signed up with you guys last week. You guys suck. Like, but now it's like,
don't worry, you only have 11 more months. Yeah, right. You get out of it.
But it was just like that was the space. I'm like, how is this space so broken?
Yeah.
And when we've gotten in, like, we weren't the only ones that had that problem. At first, I thought it was a car space, and then we figured out real quick it's just like all space.
Yeah, right.
And then it's like you go in and they're like, so if we need you, like, how do we get a hold of you? I'm like, you have my cell number. Yeah. My phone's on me all the time. Like, I'm like, you text me, call me, like, whenever. I'm like, I'll give you his number. I'll put you in a group chat with all of our people. Like, we want to be in contact with you all the time. They're like, so if we need to handle something, how fast can you handle it? I'm like, probably within like 24 or 48 hours, depending on if we have like, we need content, then it might be a little longer. But ad-wise, I mean, ASAP. And they're like, really? I'm like, and we don't run any contracts. So I'm like,
Where's the catch?
Yeah, what's going on here? But it's just like, I feel like the same thing in the car space. Somebody goes in to buy a car in like 30 minutes and they're out. They're like, oh, what just happened? Like,
yeah, right.
What did I miss?
That was way too fast.
Yeah. And I feel like you're streamlining that process, that I have a feeling that something similar to what the Sewell Group is going to happen here.
So we are, I'll give you a little sneak preview about that. I'm actually piloting that process at my Hyundai store in Blue Springs right now. We have one young man doing it. We're training more to do cradle to grave. So much like they do at a local store already, a Ford store here in Kansas City, we're going to take a similar process to that, where instead of having managers, sales, all the different layers and the man behind the curtain and all that, the person that answers the internet lead essentially there is their contact, and that's who's going to handle their transaction. That's who's going to negotiate. That's who's going to appraise the car. That's who's going to do their finance paperwork. That's who's going to answer all the warranty questions from the cradle to the grave. And we have one situation so far. It took like 26 minutes to get in and out to buy the car, and it was a nice, well profitable deal. CSI was perfect. I mean, it was awesome. That set the standard really.
I know that there's another dealership around here that's doing something that's the exact same way. And I never bought a car in that process. And this was when I went with my girlfriend and her mom, that we went there and we showed up, and it was, so we were dealing with another dealership that was pulling the sheet over us on, she was looking for a specific car, new, and I tracked it down to the first dealership, kept telling them we're going to come out. They're like, yeah, if you come here, blah, blah, we can order you stuff too. We can order. I'm like, is this car on the ground or not?
Right.
And they're like, no, it's not. After messing with them for like a week. And I was like, just out of principle of it, if you would have just told me like, hey, the car's not here, we have another one, come drive it. If you like it, we can get you one order. Just being honest.
Right.
I would have been fine with going there and driving another one, whatever. We find another one. We go there, and it was actually the owner's wife's demo. Had like 1,000 miles on it. Guy makes a phenomenal, I don't even know what you call the person, because it wasn't a manager. Like, we get there and the same person, like, they just give you the keys, send you out, we come back, and same person, like, we were greeted. Do you call it manager? What, salesperson, finance person?
Your guy.
The guy. And
I got a guy.
And it was a she, and she was like,
girl.
I got a girl.
There was all girls.
Oh, that's great.
They were like mid-30s, early 40s. And I'm like, it's not like the typical like
right.
scene that you see. And then, I mean, phenomenal. she comes back. She's like, this is the price of it. We're doing this all on a tablet.
Yeah.
And then she's like, this is what the service contract options are. Goes over them, everything.
Like
she's
a
like
kiosk style of selling.
And then she's like, you just pick and like you run through like on your Gap and everything and put in like how much money you're down. Like she was paying cash for it or whatever. So then she just goes through and clicks print on this deal. And then they have like a tower area where the people are just putting the folders together.
Yeah.
She goes over, grabs a folder, comes over, like signs a couple things. Half of it was electronically signed. She gets her like hard copies of the main docs and then gets a USB drive with the rest of them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
Did she ask if you wanted warm cookies?
For real, I was like,
where's my cookies, lady?
I was like blown away. I was like, we did this for a while.
Are you telling me I'm done already?
I'm like, yeah, because I was planning on leaving early because I thought it was going to take a while.
Yeah, right.
But it's just crazy on that. And I know we've talked a lot about the car space, a lot of that stuff, but I know that you have, like, we touched on that leadership and that success and things like that with what you've done personally. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to have you on just because I feel like you've done so much. You've overcome so much. You've killed it in the fitness space, like on just all these different levels. What gives you that drive for all that?
Ooh, man, I don't I don't know that there's any one thing. I think that's just it's you can motivate people that are motivated. It's hard to motivate unmotivated people. You know what I mean? So if somebody who has that motivation, you can get them going and charge them and give them the added push that they need to hit their next level and all that. I think genetically speaking, I've been, we're competitive. We're a competitive family. I'm the youngest of 5 kids, and so I'm fighting to get seconds at dinner since I was born. I'm fighting for a space in the house since I came out of the womb. We grew up blue collar. My dad was a barber. Mom stayed at home, and we didn't have a lot. And I, it's crazy. Growing up, like one of the things that like I made it, like I've arrived, was when I bought myself a dirt bike. When I was younger, and seriously, because I remember there was a kid in my neighborhood he was like this kid that his dad was like the cool dad that like bought his kid, was the only son, so he had all the toys. Kid had a little 50, and then as we got older, he got an 80, and then he got a 125. I'm like, this kid keeps getting these dirt bikes. I want a dirt bike, and that, I was like, hey, Dad, I want a dirt bike. Yeah, here's a Team Murray bicycle, and but I didn't understand the concept, so I just like, man, I want things, and I wanted things beyond hand-me-downs, and I wanted, I just wanted things, and I chased that. And I'll tell you, there was that turned later in life as well, when I put so much stock into things, and I had everything. I had 2 boats, 2 houses, 3 cars, 2 motorcycles. I had like a guy's dream. All the things. And at the point in my life where I had absolutely the most things that a guy could ever want, and I'm talking like cool stuff, you know what I mean? Toys for days. That was when I was the absolute most miserable in my entire life, was probably when I reached the pinnacle of having all the things, And now I have no thing. I don't. I own a home. My wife has a nice car, and that's it. I have no motorcycles, no boats, no nothing. But what I do have is I got a happy family, a happy wife, happy, healthy children. I got a great job, so in terms of like worldly and earthly possessions, I have nothing, and I'm so happy about it. It's great. It's less stuff to manage for one, you don't have to worry about insurance and gas and bikes and, $1,500 a weekend gas bills on your boat, and so you start shelling all that. And
I think sometimes people lose sight, and I did it very quickly straight out of college, of this marrying myself to make all this money that I was spending on. I had new Polaris Ranger sitting in the garage, a new motorcycle sitting in the garage, a new enclosed trailer. I'm just buying things, and you kind of lose sight of just thinking that next thing's gonna make you happy,
right?
And you
if I could just,
yeah.
If I had a 30-foot Crown Line, like, man, if I could just get one of those cruisers that we could sleep on, it'd be perfect.
Yeah.
So I kept the Crown Line, bought a big 37-foot cruiser, And,
Now if I could just get
now
the speedboat.
if I could just have a bike to ride up here to Smithville while my boats were parked here, then it would be great.
Yeah. You have it. And I sold all that stuff off. Like, and I owned that stuff outright. Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't chasing
I didn't.
payments.
I did.
But it was like, my level wasn't close to the boats and all that stuff. But it was like, those things didn't make me any happier than having them or not. And it was, I think when you get to where you're chasing this stuff and you put a price tag on all of it, it becomes this like kind of pipe dream. You lose sight of everything that's outside of it.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much to, like, I was in a job that I wasn't happy with so I could afford these things.
Right.
And at that point when I stepped out, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go enjoy my time, whatever the money and dollars and cents that come with it is what comes with it. Right. I'm just going to actually enjoy my life.
Be happy first.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if that's living under a bridge, that's living under a bridge. Yeah. I don't care where it goes.
If I know you, Dane, it'd be probably the nicest bridge around now.
It's a 2-level bridge.
Yeah, like a big
It'd be
bridge.
a pretty dope bridge. Let's face it.
No, but it's just like, I like nice things, but it's like, I don't mind working.
Right.
Like, but I want to enjoy work too, because people spend so much time working. Like, that's why I was very particular on like office space that I wanted. Mm-hmm. Like, I wasn't putting them in white cubes.
Right.
Like, that's not fair to them. Like, then they don't enjoy coming to work. And I've been to places that like the owner just has this badass like setup and everything. And it's just like white cubes for as far as you can see. Like, right. That's where you guys are going to go. Like, I can't do that. Like,
set up an appointment to come see me.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know. I think a lot of people do lose sight on that. And I think it's crazy where so many people chase out for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And maybe never get there. Or they do get there and they figure out once they got there, they're like, I can't buy enough stuff to make myself happy.
Yeah, it's miserable. And so, you know, I've flipped all of that now into in like leaving a legacy. Somebody, I don't remember where I read it or heard it or saw it or whatever, but you know, if you had to answer your account to God, if today was your last day, and you know, what's the legacy you left? You know, what are you going to be remembered by? Your badass boat, really? Who cares?
Nobody's going to remember that.
You know, I want my account of life to be how many people's lives that I impact, how many generations of people's lives that I impact. You know, when I can take a young man, you know, I'm a youth leader as well in our church, and when I could take a young man and alter the course of his life, the poor trajectory that it may have gone on, in knowing that, you know, once he has kids and his kids have kids and they have kids, that I impacted, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 who knows, generations of people's lives by changing one person's life, you know. And so I've that's what I thrive on more than anything, when I could sit and talk to young people. You know, it's crazy that I'm saying that, you know. I'm still relatively young, but young, you know, young 20-something people that where I was at one point, and I was at a point in my life where I probably could have, had I ran into a me that would have taken interest in me and said to the things, you know, that I say to people, man, things could have been different. And God has his way of working things out for us. Yep. You know, everything happens for a reason, and obviously 100%. I wouldn't be where I am without his hand in my life. But I also know that not everybody gets to come out on the other side like I did and have that same blessing. Some people, you know, die and or end up broke or addicted or whatever it is forever, you know. So, you know, I went to prison at an early age and got out. And so I've just decided that whatever, you know, I was young enough when I got out to do MMA. So I grew up wrestling my whole life, and MMA kind of started becoming a thing while I was in prison, you know. So I was like, man, I can't wait to get out. I'm going to do that. I was 26, and then finally about 28, 29 years old, I got in MMA. And, you know, so I joked that I fought till I was about 35. And the last 2 kids I fought were like almost my age combined. My wife's like, hang it up, dude. Seriously.
I got him.
Yeah. So, but, you know, I went in and I was undefeated doing that. I had 5 fights, and I was going to take a professional fight next, and I never did do that. But, and then I think it's just I just like to conquer things, you know, and just try stuff. And anything worth doing is worth overdoing, you know. So if I'm gonna go do something, I just want to be the best at it. And I don't think really there's any glory, you know. I've spent my latter years in life now, in the last couple of years specifically, doing everything I can to glorify God, so everything I do, I offer up to him and his blessings and everything he's given me. So, but I don't know what drives me to want to like just go master things. I just do. I just like, it's fun. It's fun, the challenge, the thrive. And so I don't have any real crazy impactful story that I was beaten as a child. Although
I feel like the story that you were just telling is pretty impactful. Like, not like
the route it was going, I was like,
yeah,
yeah.
Well, I just don't. I shouldn't have went to prison. I didn't grow up to a drug addict mother and a father who beat me and was never there. None of that, right? I was a good all-American kid. Had siblings. I played sports. I was super smart. Had straight A's all the way through school. I had a full ride scholarship to Rockhurst High School. I had every opportunity in the world to be good and do something great with my life. And I didn't. I just threw it all away, And I remember my mom asking me early on in prison, sitting across from me in a visitation. She said, "Well, what did I do wrong, son?" I go, "Mom, if I were to put my finger on it, I would say you were probably too good of a mom." And and I think if anything, that's probably the trauma that happened to me in my life, is my parents never really let me fail. My father. Bless him, he'd do anything he could. If I got in trouble, he'd get me out of trouble. We knew a lot of people. We have a lot of contacts in Kansas City, so able to, minimize any kind of trouble I got in, maybe a little community service or a little fine or restitution. Or I was never a bad kid. I was ornery, just super ornery. I still am, I just try and refrain now. Yeah. So I really didn't have any reason to do all those things. So maybe now that I sit here and talk it out subconsciously, like maybe part of the reason why I want to be so great is because I was supposed to be all along. Then maybe I'm making up for lost times. There's a lot of things that I could have been great at, and I try and pass that on to some of the guys that I manage. And I had an hour-long conversation with one of the kids today that I manage, and he's got it all, he's got the world by the tail. And I'm like, man, dude, if I was me talking to you, years ago, like I'm doing you right now, I'm like, when you're my age, you're going to blow by where I'm at this point. I mean, like way by it, and so that's what drives me to want to be great.
And that's where I think that speaks volumes when I think people take for granted time. And I discuss this with everyone. I could die in a car wreck on the way home. Like, tomorrow is never promised, and we all have opportunities if you can see the opportunity. And I think growing up, we didn't come from we talk about this all the time. Like, we don't have some terrible story that we came from.
Yeah, right.
Like, our parents, they got divorced when we were young. They didn't have the best divorce on the planet. But it wasn't like it was overly traumatizing, and our dad took phenomenal care of us. Mm-hmm. Could not ask for a better father out there. Was he super hard on us?
Oh yeah, I know your dad.
He ruled with an iron fist 24/7. But he gave us all the opportunity in the world to put us where we're at now.
Yeah, I read a meme. I think Steve Raylos, from Brickyard, he put something on our group chat the other day. I was one of the kids that got my ass whooped by my parents or something. I suffer from a disease today called respect.
Yeah, but it's
the truth.
Yeah.
In this day and age.
Yeah, we grew up very young. We had to grow up. Our dad brought us around, work all the time, things like that. We were in a professional setting at a young age, and it was you don't act up or you don't act like kids. Things like this, if you're going to be here, right. It was just But I think a lot of people, they have some story that they've overcome all this stuff, and you did overcome something in your 20s that
well, I did, and the stupid thing is that the story, I wish that was the final chapter of the dumb stuff, because it got really, really bad again later in years, even after I got out of prison. I'm one of those, I'm your typical sales guy. The problem with being a sales guy is the easiest person to sell is yourself.
Oh, 100%.
Right? So I can convince myself why doing something stupid was okay. I got it all figured out.
I got it handled.
Yeah, this is it. And I would discuss a high level of rationale to myself, with nobody grounding me, you know. So I had the greatest ideas all the time, right? And so anyway, when I got out of prison for selling drugs, I went to maximum security penitentiary in Leavenworth. You know, I spent my time there, got out, and did really good. And I was like, man, I will never sell drugs again. I was like, and I never to this day, I've ever sold drugs again. But I needed a vow to never get involved with drugs again. That probably would have been a better thing to do, right?
It was too specified.
Yeah. So I started partying again and getting into cocaine and ecstasy and it was just going all the way down that path. And then I found meth again. I was like, oh man, meth's so much better, man. You can smoke it, your nose doesn't hurt. You know, again, selling myself, great idea. And then I would get it, and the worst thing, I had a great job. And I was consulting car dealers at the time, so I'm walking in suits to dealers, telling them how to run their operational performance better than what they're doing now, while I'm higher than a witch doctor, you know. and I'm like, yeah, Joe, here's all you got to do, you know. And of course I'm meth, so I'm just talking a mile a minute, you know. And had all these great ideas. So that got super bad, and I was like, man, I don't want to go to a meth house and spend my time every other couple days, and so I just would buy a bunch at one time. Another great idea, right?
Better idea, buy it by bulk.
Buy it by the bulk. Sam's Club theory, right? Get it cheaper.
Yeah.
So then I, you know, of course, friends that knew I was doing that, I'd party with or whatever, like, hey, let me buy some off you so they don't have to go to the meth house. I'm like, not doing that.
That's
I don't sell it.
I don't sell it, but here, I'll give you something. You know, so man,
It's like Sundays at Sam's Club.
yeah, right.
Free tasting.
Yeah, right. So I always had free dope, and I'd give it to my buddies, and we all partied together. And then one time, so I got way spun out of control, and my wife. I'll fast forward through some details of I quit Viato, went and took a job at a dealer group in Oklahoma. Was running. I was a variable operations director of 7 stores down there. And Jack Hodge and I, it's the Hodge Auto Group in Oklahoma. He and I are best friends to this day, but we were all screwed up together, you know. And I was down in Oklahoma getting all high. I was like, it's a great idea.
Somewhere else, I'll do it as state.
Absolutely. And my boss knew that I was doing so it was okay. He's cool with it. It's cool.
He says okay, so then
I don't have to hide anything. Yeah. You know, another great idea. I'm just full of them, man. So I moved. He and I kind of had some differences, and he gave me a severance pay. I went back home to Kansas City, went and did what any tweaker would do, and I went to Cargo Largo and bought as much stuff as I could with the severance pay, and bought a warehouse. Rented a warehouse space and just started peddling stuff out of a warehouse. Off eBay and Craigslist at the time, and just whatever, you know, to make ends meet. And I was a hustler, baby. Yeah. Right? Not selling drugs, selling junk, but not drugs. So my wife finally had gotten wind of it. You know, God bless my wife, man. She's so naive. You know, she's
also like the nicest person,
and was through it all. You know, never talked down bad to me, and she just thought that, like, if I was in the car working, I was like changing the oil in my car one time, and I had fell asleep underneath the car, literally, and she just thought, oh, he's so tired, he works so much. Like, this poor girl. Yeah, I was like, yeah, no, it's called falling out. She finally figures it out. One of my friends tells her what's going on. She's like, oh my gosh, it all makes sense now. And you know, there was you know, I'll be transparent. There was girls and gambling and drugs and just like all the reasons why I should just been shunned and turned away, you know. And all she did was like, hey, I love you, but I love myself more, and I have to take care of the kids. You need to get out of the house until you figure something out. You can't live here. And so I was like, party, I got the best of both worlds. Now she knows, and I don't have to hide it no more. I can see my kids. Like, I don't have to come home at night now. I can stay out and party, you know. So I lived that up, and for, you know, just a couple of weeks. And it was a night in a hotel room at the Courtyard by Marriott overlooking the downtown. I had the penthouse suite, or whatever they call the big suite up top. So I had like 1 million Marriott points from when I was in Oklahoma, staying in Marriott's, right? So I had all these Marriott points. So I'd go. I knew the front good desk girl. You know, we were cool. She would upgrade me for nothing, and then people would come over and party with me, right? Well, this night no one showed up. Well, I say night, it was like 4 a.m. No one showed up, and I'm like, that is so weird, because everybody always showed up, because they knew I was the dummy that gave away the free dope, and no one showed up, man. And I just remember it was super weird, and I'm like, this is crazy. And so all of a sudden I got a notification on my phone. Like, I had the Nest cameras, you know, but the audio on those is like real sensitive. So I had them like hidden throughout the house, like I bugged the house, right? In case my wife, she was like filing for divorce, and I wanted to know what was going on, making sure she wasn't trying to touch our money or assets, whatever, right? And I still had bikes and boats and all this stuff at the time, right? And so I'm listening in. It's like 5:30 something in the morning, right? And all of a sudden, I'm listening to the microphone, and it's in the bedroom, right? I had it in the indirect ceiling tray. I had it hidden up there, right? And I'm listening, and she's crying. And then my daughter, who was, I think, 7 at the time, said, "Mommy, tell me what's wrong, and maybe I can make you feel better." And she's like, "I just miss your dad." And she goes, "I miss Daddy too, Mommy." And at that time, I just was like crushed, right, all the way to the world.
He's gonna make me cry on the podcast, bro.
So I started crying, and I just remember looking out over that skyline. Kansas sun's starting to come up. It's like 6 in the morning, and I just pulled my hat over my head and spoke out to God. I'm like, "God, what did I do to my family? What have I done to my marriage? And like, how do I get them back?" And then I just heard this real soothing voice, like one of my buddies that was coming. Because mind you, I'm talking out. Yeah. And had somebody came in, because I had that little latch in the door in case it was like a multi-room suite, and so I'm in the other room. And had he come in and heard me going through a moment like this, he would have said, "Hey, man, go home, man." You know what I mean? So, that's what I heard. I hear, "Go home," just real soft like that. And so I get up and I'm like, "Dude, hello? You here?" And I start looking through all the rooms in the hotel, and no one was there. I'm like, "Oh gosh, man, now I'm hearing voices. Like, this ain't good." So I proceeded to get higher. Like, again, another great idea. They don't stop, okay?
Too many voices.
Yeah, too many voices. So I'm trying to drown out the voices now and continue to get higher. But later that afternoon, she calls me and asks me if I would come and sit with the kids while she went and tried out a new church. I'm like, yeah, I will. So I came over there. And she went to, it was the night the Chiefs were playing the Patriots in the playoffs. It was in 2016 or whatever. And it was January 16th, 2016. And so she asked me to come and sit with the kids. I did. So she went and tried out this church. It was some little small church in Liberty. They were showing the football game. She could care less. So she turned around and came back home. And we're talking. And she's like, "Okay, I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed now," which was my cue to, like, get out of my house, right? And I'm like, "Hey, I'm tired too. I think I'm going to go to bed as well." And she looked at me and she goes, What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I live here. This is still my house, and you're my wife, and I'm going to go to bed too." She looked at me like, "What are you up to?" I was like, "Listen, I have a problem, and I do. I'm ready. I'm done. I'm ready to kick it, and I want to come home." And she said, then she got her crazy, snippy Italian. She goes, "Listen, if you're coming home tonight, and then you try again tomorrow, and then we're going to do this again the next night, I'm out." So you got one shot. So I just need one chance. Just give me one chance. She said, "Go up and get ready for bed." Quit, walked away, never touched a drug ever again in my life, and walked away from it all. And so why am I great? Why do I try to be great? I'm not saying I'm great. I try to be great at everything because I owe it. I owe it to her. I owe it to my kids. I took so much away from them for so long, so all I can do is spend the rest of my life trying to be as great as I possibly can for them and for anyone else around me who I impacted their life. I've said sorries and I've made my amends with most people that I know, but I'm sure there's people out there that I haven't, or people maybe that looked up to me and found out who I really was, and so I crushed somebody's dreams maybe of who my image of them, of myself was to them. So, and there's a lot of that I'll never even know. But I want to make sure if I can have any impact on the change of where I am now from where I was, that I do. So I just try and be as good as I possibly can. I fall short, man. I got kind of a foul mouth sometimes. I work on it, especially being a youth leader at church. But that's probably my number one biggest thing that I can't stand is.
I think that, how he was talking about how he didn't have that story behind it.
Yeah, and then he goes into that. He's like, "But I don't have a story."
Yeah. And that was, I knew most of that story just from knowing you as a friend.
Right.
And it was like, that was one of the big things too, that like, I think people, like that was in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
That was what?
5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
6 years ago.
Like,
yeah, 6.5 years ago. I can look it up, tell you the exact days and hours.
But it's like, it's crazy how like what you can do in 6 years. Like what you can do in like such short periods of time with like, I mean, you're in the gym all the time. You do put yourself of like, I think a lot of people let their fitness go, and I think let themselves go as a whole. There's a lot of things you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. And I'm always a firm believer in that. And I think you've done such a good job of taking care of yourself, doing the correct things to make that impact on everyone around you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I do. I want to be impactful, and the human flesh side of me is, who doesn't like the attention, right? There's always that element, I love attention. I always have, I'm the youngest of 5. I got all the attention. I was the next one up for me was 7 years older than me. So I was the baby. It was like having a first child all over again, but I always joked that I had, which is another reason why I was probably rebellious, is I had 4 dads and 2 moms growing up. My siblings weren't really they were more my parents, so I was over parented. I'm like, I'm going to show you guys, clean my room. Yeah, right. I'm going to destroy it. So, yeah.
We kind of deal with that now, too, because Chloe's, 12 now?
Yeah.
So we're not near as, cool and new and shiny like Chloe is.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. Yeah, you know the deal.
And then our dad will be like, you don't need to parent her. You're her brothers.
I'm like, she's got 3 dads. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. So be careful. Don't overparent, please.
She comes over to the house and we're like,
yeah.
But now we can actually play that card where when Dad, the whole time growing up, when he's like, my roof, my rules. When my dad was in my house and he started getting on me, I'm like, my house, my rules. I'm like,
he did say something right after you moved in. I think it was when you were at the dealership.
He did something.
He's like, you still work for me? My rules.
Yeah. Like, then he pulled that card too. Then he was like,
didn't just stop at that.
I was like, oh shit, I'm under a different roof. this roof is part of yours.
That's good stuff.
So anyone watching and listening and things like that, what would you give advice? I know you talk to the youth all the time and I feel like you do make a big impact. What would be probably the most important thing that if you could go talk to your 20-year-old self?
I got it. It's such a simple one, and yet so profound, and I'll elaborate on it. Live beyond reproach, and what that means is never ever put yourself in any circumstance where anybody could even question your integrity, question who you are. Never put yourself like now. If somebody went to my wife, even with my terrible history, and said, hey, I think your husband might be cheating on you, she'd say, no shot. And she could say that with complete confidence, and because I've lived my life in such a transparent, beyond reproach way. And same thing with my work, and, hey, I think, Tony hasn't been doing his work. My bosses would be like, not Tony. The dude's a grinder, So whatever you want, however you want someone to perceive you, live it always and beyond reproach, so that there is absolutely no way anybody could question it the other way. And that would be the biggest thing. And that's staying true to who you are, staying true, do what you say you're going to do. And how you do anything is how you do everything. I guess that's the second one. But it kind of all coincides, right?
Yeah, and that's the age-old thing where everyone talks about doing the right thing when people aren't watching.
That's it.
And I think so many people are like, oh, someone's watching me, I need to do this. And it's like, do that thing. Like, I live by one deal that just all the time is good things happen to good people. I just look at everything I do as, is that something a good person would do? Just all the time, do something for others. My goal every day is to make people around me smile, for them to have a good day. If I can live that day to the best of its ability for anyone that I cross paths with, and that could be walking down the street, that could be somebody on the side of the road, it could be whatever it is. It's just those split moments that people in their head just, well, I'm not going to waste my time. Well, I'm not going to mess with that.
Right.
I think in those short moments, those all add up.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why a lot of times we've had people well, you guys are just lucky.
Yeah.
Well, I know we work our asses off, but it's also we always do the right thing.
Luck is when opportunity meets preparation.
Yeah.
Right. That's what the definition of real luck is.
It goes right into the fitness space also. I work out for headspace. I don't really work out to be in crazy good looking shape. It would be nice. But it's I eat what I want when I want, and I go to the gym, but the gym keeps my headspace correct, and it's. You two look different because when people aren't watching and I'm eating a cookie, you guys are eating a piece of chicken or something. I'm like, that's the difference. I'm like, I'm not going to tell you when you weren't looking that I was eating chicken because I'd be lying. I'm like, I was eating that cookie when you weren't watching.
But you're honest about it.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
the moral of the
I'm
story.
not going to lie to you about it.
Right.
But like, I
can't. Well, and but you get so many guys that are in that fitness space that like, man, I can't get results for nothing. My coach sucks.
Yeah.
Like, bro, did you tell him everything you ate? Yeah. Man, I don't eat anything wrong. I follow his diet to a T. No, you don't. I do. And tell me which one's different.
exactly.
Hey, that 2 a.m. Oreo doesn't count.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So yeah, that's all. Be true to you. Do you, boo boo. Don't worry about it. And the whole comparison thing. I will tell you this. I wanted to mention this earlier. It kind of coincides with the mindset thing. There was a Harvard study. You may have seen. I posted it somewhere, or I got it from somewhere. But there was a Harvard study with rats. Obviously, there always is. But they put these rats in water, in a cup of water, and you may have heard this, and they swim for like 15 minutes and they can't get out, and then they stop and then they start drowning. Well, they pluck the rats out before they die, dry them off, warm them up, get them all back, make them feel good again, throw them back in there. How long do you think they last the second time around?
Not very long.
60 hours.
What?
Because they have a glimmer of hope that they can be saved, because they experienced it once before. That this isn't it. They didn't give up because, hey, I made it out of this one other time. So it's amazing. That's just the human mind, man. And there's an exercise I do with my staff sometimes where we'll get in a meeting and I'll be like, hey, all right, everybody stand up, let's stretch out, reach as high as you can. And everybody reaches high. I'm like, all right, give me one more inch. And everybody reaches it. Like, hold on a minute. If you as high as you can, you wouldn't have had another inch. But that's what we do so much in life. It's like we leave a little in reserves just in case. Man, if you go every day and lay it all out there and just give everything you got, number one, you're going to be tired when you go home. So if you're like, oh, man, I can't go to sleep till midnight, my mind's racing, it's because you ain't working hard. You know what I mean? If you're mentally and physically exhausted at the end of the day, you left it all out on the table. You go home and you sleep like a baby. Then you can get up at 4:30 in the morning. Yeah. You're like I do. And then by the time 8:30, 9 o'clock rolls around,
that's because you go to bed really early too.
It's because it goes together though, right? Because I work my butt off during the day, physically and mentally, because I feel like I just leave it all out on the field, so to speak, right?
I do believe in the waking up early. Like, that's when I go to the gym. Somebody else is.
Are you looking at Ricky?
Ricky goes to the gym in the morning too.
I did need to get back on that train.
I feel like there's only one person on this couch that doesn't go to the gym anymore. I feel like he's wearing.
I have gone to the gym,
and it's not John
I have
Wayne.
also gone.
Yeah. John Wayne is
Not
there
recently.
all the time. No, I think that's just like that gets that mental mind state right, but it's going out there to leave it all on the table. It's not. I think at the end of the day, you get some sort of excuse. If that's the first thing you do when you get up in the morning, there's no excuse except for you slept in.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that can become an excuse for you in the morning workouts. Mm-hmm. In the evening time, there's like thousands.
You're right. Had
like,
to pick kids up, this, that, kid's sick, car broke down.
Yeah, hey, so-and-so wants to go do this, like blah, blah, blah. There ends up all these other things. But in the morning time, nobody's like, hey, you want to go have breakfast at 5? Like, most
Except
of the time,
for maybe me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to it.
But most of the time, like, I don't think a lot of people get that message. But it's like, do you want to have breakfast at like 8 or 9? You still make it to the gym before.
Yeah.
Like, the only excuse is sleeping in.
Yeah, right.
And I think when I finally like set that in my head, then that was something that I'm like, there should never be a reason for me missing the gym.
Yeah.
Because my excuse of sleeping in doesn't sound real good when you say it out loud.
No,
and then I start, I try and practice what I preach sometimes, or all the time, but I use that against myself now. So remember the salesman thing. So I've used it for good. I've used that power for good now. How you do anything is how you do everything. And I'm sitting here, oh man, I'm tired of that. I'm gonna take it. I'm not prepping anymore for a show. I don't have any high stakes reason why I have to get up at 4:30. Other than how you do anything is how you do everything. And that's what I hear in my head when I want to stay asleep, like how you do everything. So if you'll skip today, that means you'll skip a report. That means you'll skip maybe a conversation you need to have. That means you'll make it there. That means you will make excuses for anything.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you
'Cause
just
you don't
eliminate.
keep promises to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you hold those promises to yourself, it's a lot easier to hold the promises through everything else.
I agree. How you
Quit staring at me.
I think someone's going to be going to the gym in the
Somebody's
morning.
convicted. You got the Holy Spirit gun.
Is there anything else? We're going to tag links and stuff below so anyone can reach out to you. Any of their car needs or anything like that. You're in the Blue Springs, Lee Summit area.
Yeah, McCarthy Auto Group, McCarthy Chevrolet in Lee Summit, McCarthy Hyundai in Blue Springs, and and really anywhere in the whole McCarthy Auto Group, where it's fantastic, and we have the ability to share inventory, and even there's been cases where I've just sent people, friends, if I know they live out in Olathe, I just send them out there because we got such good staff everywhere, so it's awesome. It's a big family.
Is there anything else that you want to end out the podcast on?
No, man. Thanks. Yeah, just thanks for having me. I think that I do. I'll take that.
One more.
One more thing, and this is relative for us, but I think that probably the biggest epidemic that we have in this world of seismic proportions is we have a lack of men, of real men, and so anyone that's listening to this, whether you're marketing, whatever it is you're trying to do, have an impact on some young man's life and teach them how to be a man, how to do the right things for people, how to still open doors for women, how to be respectful, all that we know from, the 19th century to the early 20th century of what men were really defined as, that's class, and it doesn't go out of style ever. It's better than TikTok. It's better than Instagram. It's better than anything. A real man can be on any of those platforms and shine. And that's, I probably, if I, obviously I'm a gigantic Christian, and everybody knows that. And if you don't, you do now. I follow Jesus, and that's the greatest man of all times in the leading principles that he has. But it's humble, it's humility. But he was a man's man, have righteous anger and being, but just look it up. If you don't know what a man is by the right definition, then look it up, Google it, and start there and figure it out. But that's the real, because if we could solve that, if we could find a cure for that, it would solve 99% of the world's problems.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think that goes a lot with just having respect for people, and like you said, opening doors for people, and like just everyone. I feel like there's just a lack of respect in our world today, and you touched on it earlier, where some of the way that these kids nowadays speak to their elders and things like that, it makes me want to knock them clean off their feet. So
yeah. My public service announcement for women and girls, hold boys and men accountable for being men. That's your job. They can't obviously teach a man to be a man, but they can sure hold them accountable for it. Yeah. And so I think that's that's where they say the man's the head of the household, but the wife is really the neck. Yeah. My wife gives me my focus on where to lead, right? Mm-hmm. And she points me in the right direction, gives me good advice. We're a team, and I wherever she points me, that's where I lead us as a family. But oftentimes, she's teaching my 7-year-old son to open doors for her. Like, she'll go, excuse me, and he'll come, sorry, Mommy, and he'll come open her car door, and, it helps because I don't have to do it now, and he'll do it for me, so tag team, go, bud. But seriously, so that's a woman's role in teaching a man how to be a man, is by holding them accountable to do it. Yeah. So that's my last. 100%. It has nothing to do with marketing or business or anything, but I bet you marketing and business would all be better if we had more men. Yeah. Dre, Ricky, any closing thoughts? No.
I'll see you at the gym in the morning.
Oh, let's go.
We could start having like group workout sessions.
I don't think I can keep up with Tony.
I might be able to.
I don't think we're going to be able to keep up with that half of the couch.
We'll do our workout. You guys do
yours. We can work out at the same time.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Be in the same vicinity.
The motivational thing, right? Yeah.
Oh, you going to meet him at 4:30?
No. I don't get there till like 5:15.
Oh, 5:15.
He gets up at 4:30. Difference.
Oh,
yeah. I get up at 5.
And so please don't bother me at 5:15 on the treadmill. I'm in the midst of my Spanish lessons. I'm taking Spanish lessons on the Duolingo app. It's funny because I'm over there, on the app, and I'm like talking out loud. I got headphones on, so I'm like, "Yo quiero beber." People,
like, what is wrong with that guy?
talking to?
He has prep brain hardcore.
Yeah, get the dude some carbs.
So,
anyway.
anyone watching, if you see Tony in the morning on the treadmill speaking Spanish, leave him alone.
say hola.
And I want to thank you,
Yeah.
finally, for coming on. Very thankful for you being here, and very thankful for you sharing your story.
Yeah, man.
And I mean, keep doing your thing. You're killing it.
Appreciate it. You guys are too. It's fun.
Glad to call you a friend. And
Likewise. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
glad to have you here. But we will close that out. This is the M3 podcast. I don't even know who's on the sticks over there, but Key, Dalton, or Lauren, or Logan.
Thanks for listening to the M3 Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Want to learn more? Check us out on Instagram at Moss Marketing Group, on Facebook at Moss Marketing 58, or on our website at mossmarketinggroup.com.